This morning it's my privilege to introduce somebody that most of you know. I'm going to make it kind of simple because he's going to really wow you with his story. Mark was raised here in Tidewater. He went to Men'sville, he went to ODU, and then he looked for greener pastures, and he ended up in Denver, Colorado. And one of the things that happened with him in Denver, Colorado in 1998 is he came into what was then religious science and Roger Keel, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And anyway, at Mount High Church, which is a wonderful, wonderful ministry in Denver. He taught Sunday school there. He worked in church and became a spiritual practitioner, which is a huge deal, by the way. I always want to say that. It is a magnificent path that takes 3 years to accomplish, and he accomplished that. So he's a very spiritual individual. He is a very fun individual to talk with. It's been great for me to get to know him better this morning, and I just want you to come on up here, Mark, and know that Spirit is guiding you in this moment, okay?
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I must confess, I'm not a professional or public speaker. In fact, this is the first time I've done this, so if I come across a little nervous or scared, I am. So bear with me. This whole year has been about busting through fears, and I'm just so grateful and blessed to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my little story here. And thanks, Diane. Wow. So, why in the world, I'm 60 years old, why in the world would I ever decide to ride my bicycle across country? Maybe you guys didn't know that. Well, I did that, and what I really want to share today is how amazing my life has been when I live from my place, from my heart, when I take on my life in a loving and positive way. So I just real briefly, this talk is not as much about my bike tour as about what I really got from it. But in short, April 18th, I decided to, I left from Washington, D.C., and I actually took a train from here to D.C. and hopped on my bicycle at a Union Station and rode on the C&O Canal and the Great Allegheny Passage all the way out to Pittsburgh. Stayed a couple nights in Pittsburgh and took off through Ohio, West Virginia, and made my way to St. Louis, where I then hopped on the Katy Trail, which the Katy Trail is the longest dirt gravel route across country. It's close to 300 miles. All of the C&O and the Gap and the Katy Trail are all gravel routes, no cars, and phenomenal camping experiences and those kind of things. And I took off and rode that from Kansas City. I made it all the way to Kansas City. I stayed with a friend for a couple of days, and then he took me a little straight north from where I got off on the Katy Trail, and then I cut across Nebraska on Highway 40 and Route 14 into northern Colorado. I went into Fort Collins. In Fort Collins, some friends of mine, since I've lived in Denver for so long, a buddy came up and picked me up, and I stayed in Denver for 4 days and got to go to a Red Rocks show and really enjoyed that. Saw Michael Fronte. It was just amazing. But anyways, from there I got a ride back up to Fort Collins and then took up into the Poudre Canyon, which runs straight west out of Fort Collins, and to northern Colorado, which made up my way to Walden. And then from Walden, I started riding north through Wyoming and Montana, Iowa, Idaho, all the way to Eugene, Oregon. And I finished up in Eugene, Oregon, April 15th. It took me, 80 days to ride my bike all the way across country. Thanks, man. It was great. It was an amazing experience without question. I mean, I think the most amazing place certainly was the Grand Tetons for me. I really love the Grand Tetons. I'm seeing a dear friend here, so I'm just so glad you're here, Diane. Thanks. So anyways, boy, I'm trying to keep it together here. This is a challenge for me, so Thanks. So anyways, yeah, that was a great, great journey for me, for sure. I'd like to just share this quote that really sent home for me from Ernest Holmes. I'm a big study of Ernest Holmes, and that there's a power within us that is greater than anything we shall ever contact in the outer. A power that can overcome every obstacle in our life and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and a new life. And I think that that's a lot of what this journey was for me, to just really take that time to, connect with who I was. One of the biggest questions I was asked of me along this route was, weren't you lonely on this trip? And I'm like, no. In fact, that was the last thing that ever came up for me. I totally felt connected to Spirit and felt connected to my community all around me. And so what started this thing? Why would I do this? Like I said, I'm 60 years old, and what would ever possess me to do something like this? So in very short, in 1998, I took a spiritual growth class. It was actually a personal growth class in Denver, and it literally was a 2x4 upside of my head, and really awoken me to that there was a lot more to life than what I thought I knew. And at that time in my life, I pretty much thought I knew everything. And it was such a very different way of looking at things. In 2004, I was introduced to the science of mind and spirit. I had no idea. I never have been a religious person, never have really attended many churches, very much. But I went in kicking and screaming, sat at the back of the room there and in Mile High, and things started to resonate for me. And because of the personal growth work I had been doing, it was all based in principles, and that's what I like about our teachings in the New Thought movement, is it's all principle-based. The science of mind and spirit kind of resonated with me. And so I started that journey there at Mile High. I started volunteering, worked in the youth ministry, and worked with kids, which I love doing. And then I, kept taking all their classes. That's what I committed to. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that happened for me in 1998 was I committed on that day. When I finished that course, that until the day I die, I'm going to continue to grow and learn and expand my consciousness every day until the day I die. And I've committed to that, and I've stuck to that path and journey today, and it will continue on. And this bike trip was by far a big part of that. I continued that journey, and I went into practitioner training, as was mentioned, and that was by far one of the most challenging things for me. I think Richard said it was a 3-year thing. Yeah, it's 3 years, but it took me 6 years to get through that. And I had to repeat a couple things. I asked a lot of questions, and it took me a little longer than what I had thought. But about 2 years ago, my stepmom, my dad's wife, passed away. And my dad and I have never been estranged, but we've never been all that close. We've lived geographically distanced for many years, for over 35, almost 35 years. We've lived a long ways apart. And so I took that opportunity when Margie passed away to come and spend a couple weeks with my dad. And that 2 weeks was by far the most profound time I'd ever experienced with my dad. I mean, it was just really wonderful to have that time with him. And we continued conversations and talking. And when I moved out west, I said I would never move back to the East Coast. I mean, it's just not, I love the East Coast, but I didn't want to live here anymore. I wanted to be out in Colorado, which is I love to cycle and ski and do all of that, so it was really a great space to do it. But after having some wonderful conversations with my dad and really talking about what we wanted to do in our lives, I asked him the big old question, Dad, do you want to get busy living or do you want to get busy dying? And he came back, I want to get busy living. And I'm like, great. And so I said, I told him I really want to get a chance to know you, and I want you to get to know me, because I don't think he really knew me that well. And so that opportunity presented itself, and we ended up talking. He made me an offer to move back here to Virginia, and to this day, I don't regret a minute of it. And we've spent the last 2 years, I live with my dad now, and we spent the last 2 years really doing father-son type adventures and doing different things to get to know each other. Right after my bike tour, we went to Scotland for 2 weeks and really had a phenomenal time in Scotland. My dad, who's 86 years old, rode 6 days on an electric assist bike, and just crushed it. Had a great time with that. So, I had been riding and cycling so much in Colorado, and I was riding 250 to 300 days a year, and I'd always wanted to ride my bike across country, but there's always been an obstacle. There's always been work, there's always been family, there's always been whatever, time. There was always an excuse not to do something as epic and as big as that trip was. But I ultimately made that decision to do that. And so, yeah, that's where I stand with it, and it's been an amazing journey all the way through. Let's see, what am I talking about? More importantly than what the bike tour to me is what I really took from it, and that's what I wanted to share today. I'm trying to see my time here. I got a few minutes here, so I got to be brief. So more than what I've than the bike. So yes, it was a very physically taxing event, but it wasn't so much for that. It was a spiritual journey for me by far. And I think the three things I really took from this is the power in the universe for good. There's goodness of humanity. And I love this story. I was in Montana, middle of nowhere, Montana, and I'm going through, and the morning was pretty breezy and some storms, and there was a lot of construction on the road. They were tearing up the road. It was pretty rough. And I pulled into this convenience store, and I'm pretty frazzled. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, wow. And I still had 15 miles to go, and it was thunderstorms, and the road was all tore up. I'm like, oh, my goodness. And I'm sitting there at this convenience store, and this old man comes up, and in his pickup truck. He was a farmer guy, rancher type guy, and he comes out, and he was a big dude, and he comes up to me, and he walks by me, looking at me, and he goes, "For God's sake, son, you're a grown man. What you doing on a bicycle?" And I just took a step back, and I'm like, wow. I laughed, and I started having a conversation with the guy, and he ended up giving me a ride through that 15 miles of crappy roads and thunderstorms, and we talked and had a great conversation, and I just really enjoyed that. And by far, that was one of the best things I took from this experience, despite all the separation, despite all the craziness that's going on in this country right now. I rode my bike all the way across from small town America, and I didn't meet one jerk along the whole way, not one. And that was probably one of the most profound things that I took from that experience. By far. I couldn't express how the kindness, the generosity. I had people give me a place to stay. I had people give me food. I had people, and they didn't even ask for it, just the kindest and nicest people that I ever saw. I think the other big thing I took from this is beingness versus doingness, being fully present with all of life. Mark Twain once said that the worst loneliness is not to be comfortable with yourself. And I think that because of all the spiritual work and all the stuff that I had done throughout the last 25 years, it made this tour. I was fully connected. I was in a place of beingness from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. I had no idea where I was getting my food. I had no idea where I was having a place to stay. I just went at the grace of God and just went through life. And it was the best experience because I didn't have to worry about anything except where I was going to and who I was going to meet and have fun doing it. And then the last thing, the daily practice of trusting Spirit. Man, without a question. Man, I put my faith. I had people say, "You're not going to carry a weapon?" I'm like, "No." You're not, don't you worry about somebody trying to steal your bike? No. I didn't really get to that place. And, I trusted Spirit. I trusted life, knowing that I was going to be fully cared for from the time I woke up to the time I crashed. And without question, that happened every day. If I needed something, I just put it out in the universe in a prayer in the morning, and sure enough, before lunchtime, it had showed up. It was just amazing how things manifested and how they showed up, without question. How am I doing? I got to wrap it up. Okay, so that's kind of my short story. I've had pictures running in the back. I hope they've been rotating here. And so I didn't really want to take a whole lot of time about the bike tour. If you have questions afterwards, I can talk about it. But I really just wanted to say, how much this spiritual journey and this bike tour meant to me. And, I'm so grateful. And I move into this place of gratitude. And I first want to give great thanks to my dad, who was such a support and made this happen for me. And I just say thank you, Dad. Thank you so much. I give great thanks to my dear friend Diane Hopt, who is an amazing endurance athlete. She just got back from South America. She's cycled across country. She's cycled north to south in Africa. She's done all these amazing events and has been a huge inspiration to me and helped me get prepared and train for this thing. And we did a lot of bike rides together, and I'm just so grateful, Diane, and thank you so much for all your help. And then, I'm very active in part of a men's group out in Colorado, and I'm starting to get involved with the men's group here. And, it's that men's group has been a solidifying rock to support me through this journey. They've helped me along the whole way. And I always give thanks to Mile High Church. I give thanks to Spirit. I give thanks to this community, and I give thanks to all my friends and family who supported me along this journey. So I'm most grateful. So what's next for me? I just moved back here a couple of years ago. I'm really figuring all that out. I'm so grateful to be here with my family and making new friends. I did grow up here, so I am figuring out what I'm doing next as we speak. I do plan on doing more bike tours. I love it. And I think one other message I'll end with this is that, I invite anyone, if you've had something big that you want to do, whether it's writing a book or producing whatever, going for a big walkabout or a hike or a bike ride or anything something that's big, figure out a way to make that happen. By far, this was the most impactful year in my life. And I prepared a lot for it, but I'm so glad that I made it happen. And I just invite everybody to get out there, do what you can do. Enjoy your life, love life. That was my theme the whole way through, is loving life. And I did that all the way through, so I just invite people as well to enjoy your life and make the best of it. So thank you so much for the time. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So we can just move into meditation. My mic's still on? There we go. I can hear it. If we could all just take a moment to take a deep breath in. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes. Just take another deep breath in and just feel that wave of spirit, that energy that's moving through your entire being. And know that's the very energy of love. Just take another deep breath in, and I just take this moment to just give thanks. Give thanks for this incredible opportunity, knowing and feeling that the presence of God is everywhere around me. But I know most importantly that presence is deep within me. I just hold that space. And I stand in that place of love, compassion, and kindness. So I give great thanks. I give great thanks. I loved how this service started today with the gratitude song, because that's where I live, in this place of gratitude. And I'm so grateful for everything and everyone. And I'm grateful for my life. Fully blessed. So I just allow these words to go into the nothingness from which they came. And together we can say, and so it is.
Flow, Spirit, flow through me as I open up to be an expression of your